right. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Lindsay Markel with the Independent Sector and Upswell teams. Welcome to all of you for joining us, and welcome to our speakers from Generate Health to talk about the Bloom Network. So I will let you all take it away here.
Cool. Thanks so much, Lindsay. So good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. My name is Carie Mellenthin, and this is my colleague.
Hi, everyone. My name is Asia Welch.
And we would like to engage you for a few about how the Bloom Network puts community at the center of all of our initiatives. But first, I need to give you some information about how we got here and the backbone organization that supports the Bloom Network. So the backbone organization is Generate Health. Generate Health is a coalition in St. Louis that has enhanced community services that focus on improving the health of women and children. In our 20-year history, Generate Health has brought together diverse stakeholders from community, nonprofit, for-profit, government, healthcare systems, and academic institutions to leverage pooled resources and expertise to solve problems, attract and focus financial and human resources where they are needed most, and to avoid duplication where resources are scarce. The uprising in Ferguson and across the St. Louis region generated immense energy and conversations about racial equity, and it was this event that fueled Generate Health's urgency to evolve our mission and think critically about the ways we wanted to engage with community. By the end of 2017, we had determined that the most important shared goal we needed to address was the persistent and widening racial gap in infant and maternal health outcomes. And that to do so effectively, we needed to explicitly center racial equity in our purpose and vision. That vision is to mobilize and inspire the St. Louis region to advance racial equity in pregnancy outcomes, family well-being, and community health. I would like to make it clear that when we say family, pregnancy, and community, we are talking specifically about Black pregnant and parenting people with lived experience. Our definition of lived experience is someone who has experienced pregnancy complications or loss, has had a baby born too small or too early, or has lost a child before its first birthday. So this brings us to the Bloom Network, an initiative of Generate Health, which aims to coordinate a network of health and social service organizations to improve Black families' experience within these systems by designing solutions that center the voice and choice of community members.
Yeah, so that brings us to our community engagement piece, which is probably why you all are here today. So within the Bloom Network, we have had a long history of engaging our community, but we have been engaging them on our terms, meaning meetings run like a business, too fast, no time for feedback, on our time, meaning if we decide to have meetings at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday, maybe that's not the best for a community member who works during the day. And having very rigid agendas. So I know we all love a good agenda, but surprise, it is possible to have an agenda that, acts as guidelines to keep you on track, but, you can be flexible with it. And that's something that we've learned over the years. And this feedback helped us realize that those in decision-making power needed to change. I'm going to let that sit for a second.
Yeah, let's sit with that for just a minute. And to go back to your agenda, right, Asia, that we show up with an agenda and we want to get through X, Y, and Z. And we know that, data has told us we need to accomplish this with our community or that with our community. And so in sitting back and taking time, we have realized that letting that agenda go, if a community member, a community leader shows up to one of our meetings or one of our events and something has happened or taken place in the community and that's what we need to focus on at that time, then our agenda goes out the window. We have learned that that listening to what is happening at that time opens up conversations and trust building. For sure. So, which brought us to that point that Asia just said. I'm going to invite you, Asia, to say that one more time, just so it sits.
Yeah, absolutely. The feedback that we received helped us realize that those in decision-making power needed to change. We needed to shift the power to those leaders in community with those lived experiences Carie mentioned before, and engage those with resources to support the community, not be the leaders and the decision makers. So we here at Generate Health are trying to build a table without conditions by lifting the voices that are typically unvoiced. We actually had a meeting yesterday with some of our community leaders, and we were doing some quality improvement work, and we're having a great conversation. And some of the feedback we got, I know one mother was saying that it would be really great, going back to our agenda piece, if we could just take some time out of our meeting schedule to just vent, to just talk about us. They know that, like, as community leaders, they're here to help us, inform our work. But they were like, we're moms and it's hard out here and we're still in a pandemic. Can we just vent for a little bit during our meetings? And we were like, absolutely. We also had some other really good feedback, but I'm drawing a blank. Carie, can you help me with those words?
So before that other feedback, that takes me to, building that table without conditions, right? Is that we specifically want and need, so that we can learn, that community members show up as they are, where they are, when they are. And that even if there was feedback that was given, 2 weeks ago, or an idea that was given 2 weeks ago and a lived experience changed what that idea was, we know that we need to hear what that change is, and that we are not ever going to close the door because that's not the direction we were headed. We now realize we need to head in a new direction, and that our community members are the one that lead that direction, so to say. A talk that we had to do with a recipe, right? Like this is our metaphor, is that that our community is the one building our recipe. They are bringing the ingredients. They are building the cake. And we know that even if that cake comes out a certain way and it doesn't taste so good, we're going to go back to where the community leads us for another recipe, for different ingredients, and be open to that. So again, really coming as you are, who you are, where you are at that very moment. And I think that's what leads us to these quotes that some of our community members gave us yesterday. One community member said, "I'm just proud to be a part of Generate Health, where my voice can be heard and I can make changes in my community." And the other person said, "I'm proud to be a leader and to be at the table to make decisions." Which I thought was so important, right? To make the decisions.
Yeah, I think that's really captures what we're trying to get at, where, we built this table without conditions, or at least that's our aim. And we set the table for our community to join us and show up as they are able. Everything Carie was saying before, they show up as they are able without conditions. If maybe you missed a meeting before, we are not shutting the door on your face. You are still always welcome at our table. We're trying to create a sense of belonging. And it's been a big part of our racial equity journey. So that's brought us to this current vision of the Bloom Network that we've been talking about this whole time, which is a coordinated quality care system that is informed by these community leaders. We were able to utilize our pre-existing partnerships, and we've been able to build and leverage this network to support our Black, pregnant, and parenting people. Now, something we've gotten a lot of questions about and are here to kind of give you some inside information is, how do we support our community and our provider partners? When we were in person, which we haven't been for a little bit, we made sure that we provided a stipend for our community members. And I think this is probably one of the most important pieces. I get paid to give my experience when I go to work. We're asking them to come in and share their expertise, so we make sure we pay them a living wage for their time. We also make sure to provide childcare. We want as few barriers as possible when our community members are coming in. So we provide childcare. And we shared a meal. We sat down together before our meeting started, and we would have a meal together in fellowship. It was all part of that trust building, getting to know each other, we're all in this together type of work. And we also made sure to provide transportation assistance. Now, I'm going to emphasize that this does not mean we handed them a bus pass or anything like that. We either called a ride share, making sure that the community member is picked up from their house, like their door, brought to our door and back. Or if the community member wanted to drive, we made sure they had a gas card. As few barriers as possible. Now that we've been virtual for a little bit, it looks a little different, but we are on the same page of providing a stipend, living wage for their time. And we also have started additionally giving an internet stipend. Once again, we are trying to knock out as many barriers as possible. We want community to feel comfortable coming to our table, sharing their voices.
And that internet stipend, even we have one, a couple probably, but one that comes to mind who her internet is on her phone. And so if we're asking for data, we increased her data when we asked, what is a barrier? What would be something that would cause you not to be able to come to our consumer advisory board meetings, which is what we call our meetings. They're the CAB, lovingly known as the CAB. And when she mentioned data on her phone, which we know phone is important, right? She has children. She needs data on her phone for many, many reasons. And so for us to take that data up with our meetings didn't seem right. So there is a data stipend for this particular family, an internet stipend, and a living wage stipend for her time. So yeah, again, few barriers.
And I mentioned before, we also support our providers because they're just as part of a network as our community members. And so a way that we've been able to support them in this work as well is we provide free trainings.
Free
trainings for our providers. And those range anywhere from racial equity work, trauma-informed care, anti-bias, safe sleep. And we take the approach in these trainings that we offer at both a systems and an individual level. We are trying to provide the whole picture. So free trainings at systems and individual levels. Because at the end of the day, this is a collaborative effort in order to prevent silos. Like there's so many issues of people and groups working in silos and everyone's like, oh, I'm working over here and it's my work. Oh, I'm working over here. This is my work. No. Break down the silos, break down the barriers. We're working together to make the systems, the community a better place. And this is all to show that power and decision-making needs to live in the community. Those with resources should be in the supporting role, not the decision-making role. I know I said that earlier, and I'm going to say it again just to make sure that it's really underscored. Decision-making and power needs to live in the community, and those with resources should be in the supporting role, not the decision-making role.
And I think that that deserves us to go back just for a second about how breaking bread and fellowship together in meetings is that isn't done just with our community members. This also happens in meetings with both community members and providers, because I think that those are two silos also, right? Providers being open to hearing what community truly has to say, and community being able to build that trust, providers being able to build that trust in with community members for community members to give honest feedback, for leaders to feel confident enough to stand up and know that this decision-making lives with me, that you're asking me this because this is how you're going to go about your daily business. With everything from how you meet, how you receive feedback, how you ask for feedback, what kind of programs you have, even as far as to how do you seek your funding. And so, again, just breaking down each one of those silos, and anyone that we are at the table with, that we are breaking bread with, we are extremely clear that that decision-making lives within that community. So the Bloom Network, right? It makes so much sense because this was driven by community members leveraging a need for coordinated quality care system in order for their Black mothers, sisters, daughters, wives, friends, and babies to stop dying at the hands of the inequities inside systems. So for us, our question to you would be, how will you move in your racial equity journey to create a sense of belonging? And that would open it up for questions that you have, comments that you have. If you want to come on and tell us how you're moving through this racial equity journey with your community members and providers or who you're at the table with, we would invite you to do that now.
Oh, thanks, Lisa, for putting all of this in the chat for people.
So Carie and Asia, there is a question in the chat. What are the biggest lessons you all are learning?
That's a really good question. Our lessons are ongoing. I think some of the biggest lessons that we have learned is that we were looking at data for a long time. As Generate Health is our backbone organization, we were looking at data as the Bloom Network and the different initiatives that live in the Bloom Network. And I can mention those now. Those are a home visitation collaborative, a perinatal behavioral health initiative, and a safe sleep initiative. And those live within our Bloom Network. And so I think one of the biggest lessons learned is that we looked at data, we looked at outputs, and asked certain questions until we got feedback from the community that the way we were asking for our data, the questions that we were asking were giving us what we wanted to hear, right? And not necessarily giving us the full picture. And so really learning that we needed to shift that. We need both. We need both. We need outcomes and we need outputs. And so that data and the way we go about that is a little different. And I also think that the way that Asia was talking about how our table is set, how community members are invited, makes a big difference as well. And taking that time to build trust was a big lesson for us as well.
We invite attendees to also share in the chat box. What are some ways that you're moving forward in your racial equity journey to create a sense of belonging? Let us know so we can all learn from each other.
I think something else that we've talked about as well within our team is, and a question that we get is, how do we know it's working? I think that's a really interesting question. And I think one of the ways, maybe a pretty good indicator, is that people keep coming back. So they come back. Like we shared the quotes earlier, people are excited to be in a space where they know their voice is heard. I've definitely had some of our community members that I've been talking to asking them about different ways they would like to be involved with us. You know, Carie mentioned several different initiatives. There's lots of ways to be involved. And so in those conversations with people, hey, how do you want to be involved? Mm-hmm. Some of them have been like, sign me up for everything. I am just excited to be somewhere where someone wants to hear my opinion. I see this every day in my community and I have thoughts and feelings about it. And that was such incredible feedback to hear personally.
Oh, Lisa, thanks for sharing part of the secret sauce.
Another question just came up in the chat. Can you tell us more about how your community champions reach out to support pregnant women in the community?
Yeah. I think part of the journey with our community leaders is helping build various skills, such as storytelling, advocacy, leadership skills, because I believe part of the point is for us to help our community leaders feel empowered while they're sharing their story with us so we can help address systematic issues. But then they can also, in turn, go back into their individual communities, because St. Louis region is relatively large, and they can go back into each of their different neighborhoods and communities and share what they've learned, talk to their neighbor, talk to their mom, their sister, whoever, and be like, hey, did you know about safe sleep practices? Oh, hey, grandma, you've had a really interesting story. Let me give you some tips about how we can go share that with other people and make some change happen.
Some of our community leaders have also done large projects of their own. We have two of our community leaders that have.
Oh no. Okay, well, I know she was going to say, so I will fill in. We have a couple community leaders who've been at the table with us for a while, and they were actually able to form their own. Oh, did I cut out?
I'm still here. Do you think the talk just ended, or?
I don't know.
Hi there. You should have.
Maybe it's an issue on the upswell end of things.
Because
I think everyone.
I don't see Asia either.
Monica says
I'm
no,
back.
we're here. Okay.
Am I not back?
Yeah, you should have a few more minutes.
Sorry, you're back, Asia.
Okay.
I just can't see you.
I'm all the way at the bottom. Everyone just cut out for me, and I thought it was you, and then everyone left. I was like, oh, is it me?
Okay, sorry. Monica, thank you for saying that you can hear us and you're here. I really appreciate it. Yeah, my whole screen went like, I don't even know where I went for a second. I was talking about the Village of Moms and how these two women and one of their daughters started like a literacy program to champion pregnant and parenting families. And so, yeah, thank you everyone for sticking around for sure. And so there are many ways that our community members, our community champions are reaching out to support pregnant women. They are involved in the different initiatives that I mentioned. Generate Health Above and Beyond, the Bloom Network, also has other initiatives in the St. Louis region. And so getting involved there, Advocacy and Policy is another big way that a lot of our community champions get involved. There has been a lot going on in the state of Missouri about pregnant and parenting families. And again, doing storytelling, showing up to rallies, really figuring out that their voice does matter and it needs to be heard. So that's a lot of what's going on in our region here in St. Louis with our community leaders.
There's also another good example. So I can't see. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just can't see you.
Okay, that's fine. You don't need to see me. I was gonna say another good example is Shavannah. She started her podcast, The Hood Talks, and has been able to reach out to the broader region and community as a whole with her experiences and bringing in different speakers to reach people that way. And I know it's been very successful. Even some of our providers came to us and were like, did you know that Shavannah has a podcast? Oh, I love it so much. And I was like, of course I knew, but I'm glad you're enjoying it too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and we talk about community champions as our consumer advisory board. And I think that even embedded within some of our providers that are at the table are community champions as well, doing, just a ton of work within the system of their organization as well as in the community, and engaging community leaders, community champions to come to and sit on their consumer advisory boards in order to direct, like I said before, programs, funding, day-to-day operations. And so, yeah, tons of ways that our community is showing up.
Looks like we have just a few minutes left, Carie and Asia. Any parting thoughts from you all? Any parting thoughts from anyone in our audience? We do invite you to stay in touch with us. The contact information for both Carie and Asia is on the slide. And
Absolutely.
We hope to have a dialogue with anyone who's interested.
Yeah, this is there's a 20-year history here, so a lot of lessons learned that are maybe even a little bigger than the 20 minutes that we've been able to share together. So thank you for sticking around, for learning about the Bloom Network and how we put community at the center. And I would invite you to really think about how you want to move through your racial equity journey to create that sense of belonging. So thank you again for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone.